Welcome to our full-length Athlete of the Century special. I'm Sports Director Owen Siebring, and I'll humbly guide you through our attempt at honoring the 25 best Siouxland prep athletes from the last 20 years. We'll have a full rundown of the top 25, plus a roundtable discussion with some experts on Siouxland sports, and we'll tell you who just barely missed the cut. The project was a tremendous undertaking for our research team, and though we knew it would stir up plenty of debate, we've enjoyed the engagement this countdown has brought us and our viewers during a very challenging 2020 calendar year. The only criteria we factored into the countdown here was that our athletes would be solely based on their accomplishments in high school, and they had to have graduated from a Siouxland school between the years of 2000 and 2020. So no current high school athletes and no favor given to someone who excelled in college or at the professional level. With that being said, let's run down the list of athletes from 25 to number 2 at least. We'll begin our countdown with 2020 Sergeant Bluff Luton graduate Daniel Wright, quarterback who brought SBL to the Dome twice. At 24 was Amber Heggie from Croft, and Amber was also number 1 on our Play of the Century countdown from that buzzer beater in the 2007 state championship game. Number 23 was Jenny Flynn, the daughter of former Sioux girls coach Kelly Flynn, holds school records in basketball and tennis for the Cardinals. 22, Hinton's Jessica Vanderkoy, a basketball and volleyball standout who went on to compete at Mizzou. One of our few featured offensive linemen at 21, Norfolk Catholic's Ethan Piper, who paved the way for Nebraska's all-time leading rusher. At number 20, another South Sioux City product, Annie Shadle, who later went on to run professionally. Moving into the top 20 at number 19 was the only featured wrestler on our list, Adam Allard, who won 3 state titles for West Sioux. And at number 18 is Mike Gesell, an absolute basketball legend in Nebraska, and a name that Hawkeye fans will not soon forget. Number 17 is Katie Brown, a Spirit Lake softball standout who, like Gasel, went on to a tremendous career at the University of Iowa. 16 is another runner, Kristen Hansen, who won a combined 13 state titles in her track and cross-country career at Okoboji. At 15 is another former track star, Kiana Phelps, who's regarded as the best thrower in Iowa history and is just finishing her college career at Oregon. And at number 14 spot, the kid who was running behind Ethan Piper at Norfolk Catholic, Dylan Kautz, who holds the all-time yardage record for a Nebraska high schooler, but was also a 4-time state champion in the 100-meter dash. Number 13, Western Christian's Ashton Verbeek, who could have gone Division I in volleyball or basketball, spent her first 2 seasons with the Huskers before heading back home to play for Dordt. Number 12, Katie Robinette, our 4th athlete from South Sioux, more than any other school, an All-American basketball player for the Cardinals, and holds the school record in the high jump. Number 11 was Denison Schleswig's Brandon Sheriff, who lettered in 5 sports during high school but found his home as an offensive lineman. He's already a multiple-time Pro Bowler for Washington. Entering the top 10, number 10 was Kelsey Bolte, another high school All-American who went on to be a star at Iowa State. Number 9, the first addition from Bishop Heuveln, Brandon Wagger, who many would still say is the best running back in Iowa high school history. Number 8, Wayne product Molly Hill, who almost 20 years later still holds almost every pitching record in the Nebraska softball record books. Didn't allow a single earned run her senior year. And number 7, North High grad Daniel Tillo, who was named Mr. Basketball in Iowa but chose a baseball career. He's currently pitching in the Royals farm system. Number 6, rated our number 1 male athlete from the last 20 years, Hunter Deckers, who helped West Sioux to a pair of state football titles, earned all-state honors in 4 sports for the Falcons, and now is on the 2 deep as a QB for Iowa State. Top 5 was a collection of all-female athletes. Number 5 on the list was the top-ranked athlete from Nebraska, Nicole Brungart, who got Division I looks in 3 sports but pursued volleyball and track at Wayne State, currently competing for a spot on the U.S. Olympic bobsled team. Number 4, Sioux City East grad Shelby Houlihan, who won multiple state titles in track and cross country in high school, one of the top-ranked runners in the world at this moment. Number 3 on the list, MOC Floyd Valley's Alexis Conaway, who won state championships in track, basketball, and volleyball. There are some who said she could have been number 1 on the list. And at our number 2 spot was Deb Remerdy, a star in volleyball and basketball, but her name is still remembered in basketball circles as the best shooter, male or female, that the state of Iowa has ever produced. And for number 1 on our Athlete of the Century countdown, there was almost no debate about which athlete embodied the spirit of this countdown the most. Someone who not only was a first-team All-Stater in 3 sports, but she's one of only 2 girls to ever be inducted into 2 Halls of Fame for basketball and volleyball. And if they ever make a soccer Hall of Fame, she'll surely be in there as well. 2010 Bishop Heuveln graduate Carli Tritz.
I could not have been any luckier to be at Helen at the time I was.
So says Carli Tritz, but her former teammates and coaches might feel like the lucky ones having Carli on the roster.
Carli was a player that just made everybody around her so much better. And, you know, whether it's a player or even a coach, you know, there's times where she made me look like I was a genius.
The best all-around athlete I've ever coached. I mean, when I say all-around, I mean, like, this kid could pick up a ball, a bat, a bow and arrow probably, and be, like, spot on and everything.
As far as we know, archery wasn't in her arsenal, but Carli can claim the distinction of being Iowa's first ever inductee into 2 Halls of Fame for basketball and volleyball.
To get into the Hall of Fame for the girls' union in 2 sports is unheard of, you know, and it just kind of tells you what kind of kid she is and what kind of competitor she is.
When I got asked to be inducted into the Hall of Fame or told, I mean, that was just, it seriously is a true reflection of all the teams I was on.
And those teams reaped the benefits of Carli's presence in 4 years of soccer, 4 state tournament berths, in 3 years of volleyball, 3 state tournaments, 2 title game appearances, and a state championship in 2007.
Celebration for Sioux City Bishop Helen.
And in 4 years of basketball, 4 state bids, 3 title game trips, and state titles in 2008 and 2010. Carli earned first-team All-State honors in all 3 sports, was named Miss Basketball in 2010 after a campaign where she set the Sioux City record for most points in a season, one of the nation's top 40 basketball recruits coming out of high school. Carli was also the Class 3A Volleyball Player of the Year as a senior, and she still holds the city record for most goals scored on the soccer pitch, 93 in her 4-year career.
It was easy because I was tall, too, so I just sit there and, you know, I didn't have a lot of soccer skills. I just sat there and headed the ball in.
Which begs the question, why not help out the Helen softball team in the summer?
I think my parents wanted me, they were those kind of parents that, you know, wanted me to take time off, so I just blamed on them. My mom won't let me, something like that.
Once all was said and done at Helen, Carli decided that basketball would be her next pursuit, committing to play for Creighton University.
She literally could have played in the Big 12 and the Big 10, volleyball at any level, and she was just like, Coach, the basketball just, it makes the ball feels different in my hand.
I seem to like it the most, and I just felt like I could really be creative and put a lot of my personality into the game too. And it was a tough choice at a certain point, but eventually when your gut kind of helps you figure it out, you know.
Tritz driving, nice touch inside.
Carli was named the MVC Freshman of the Year in 2011 and followed that with a first-team all-conference selection as a sophomore. Injuries prematurely ended Carli's playing career with the Jays, but she now works as an assistant coach at Creighton.
I just have the goal of recruiting good kids and keeping them at Creighton, winning a couple of games along the way, and we'll see if that can take me other places.
It's fitting for an athlete who made coaching such a joy for those whom she played for in high school.
She made you love coaching the game. It's one of those things that I'll always have literally the best memories from.
She was always smiling. She always happy, had a great attitude. You know, those are the types of kids that you want to coach, and you know, she's one of the best, and there's no doubt she's number 1.
Our thoughts exactly, Coach. Carli Tritz Berger, our number 1 athlete of the century. A couple of breakdowns from within the list. As we mentioned, South Sioux had the most athletes of any school, 4 total, with Flynn, Shadle, Robinette, and Gesell. Norfolk Catholic just behind with Piper, Kautz, and Brungart. From here in town, Bishop Helen had 2 on the list with Tritz and Wegher, while West Sioux also landed a pair in the top 25, Hunter Deckers and Adam Allard, who were both 2020 graduates. A further breakdown shows that 16 females were on the top 25 list as opposed to 9 males. Same exact split between Iowa and Nebraska athletes on the list. 2003 and 2020 were the graduating classes with the most entries. Hopefully my recency bias not showing too much. Deckers, Allard, and Daniel Wright from 2020, while 2003 boasted Jenny Flynn, Jessica Vanderkoy, and Deb Remerdy. There were 9 athletes from the Sioux City Metro on the list, while 16 came from the surrounding schools throughout Siouxland. And 23 of the athletes we featured went on to play Division I college sports at some point, the only exceptions being Nicole Brungart, who played for Wayne State, and Amber Heggie, who went on to play at USD while they were still a Division II school. So that takes care of the top 25 list, and after the break, we'll reveal which athletes just barely missed the cut. Keep it right here. Welcome back to our Athlete of the Century special. We've gone through our list of who made the cut as the top 25 athletes from the last 20 years, and the Siouxland News fan base had plenty to say about athletes who didn't quite make the list. In no particular order, here are 5 athletes who were close but just missed out on the top 25. Central Lions' Gable Sieberta was narrowly left off the list. Sieberta is one of the state's all-time great long-distance runners. He helped lead Central Lion George Little Rock to a team title in cross country. He won 5 state titles and still holds the state record in both the 1600 and 3200. Plus, he was a 2-time Drake Relays champion, now off and running at Iowa State. One Metro athlete who just barely got left off the list is Jackie Kalin. Jackie was an outstanding basketball player, leading the Stars to a state title before going on to Northern Iowa, where she's regarded as the best women's basketball player in Panther history. Jackie was also brilliant. She was the valedictorian of her high school graduating class. Basketball aside, Jackie was an outstanding soccer player for the Stars, and she once held the Sioux City record for the 400-meter hurdles, an event where she qualified for state all 4 years of high school. Another recent track and field graduate who just got left off the list, Nick Phelps from Woodbury Central, the younger brother of number 15 on the list, Kiana Phelps. Nick was a 3-time state champion in the discus and holds the state record in the shot put, but Nick was an all-around stud for the Wildcats. He was a 2-time All-State baseball player, plus he was twice named the best punter in the state. Right now, he's on the Hawkeyes football roster as the backup punter. Another couple of beefy boys from Woodbury Central who just missed out are Levi and Landon Paulson, twin brothers for the Wildcats who lettered all 4 years of high school. Both were named to the elite all-state team as seniors before moving on to play for the Hawkeyes in college. A couple pretty good grapplers too. Landon was a state runner-up as a junior, and Levi won state as a senior. I'll give you one guess at their weight class. One athlete whom we sadly lost in the last few months, former Plainview wrestler Christian Miller. Christian was a 4-time state champion for the Pirates, going undefeated both his freshman and senior seasons. Christian's high school record was 169 wins and 2 losses, also a 2-time state qualifier in cross country. Christian was recruited to wrestle at Nebraska, where he'd enjoyed strong freshman and sophomore years, but sadly just this past November, Christian was killed in a car accident in Lincoln. Christian's memory will live on in the hearts of Plainview and Nebraska wrestling fans. The Pirates are competing in his honor this year and will try for a 3rd straight state title. Between the list and those who just missed the cut, there's plenty to discuss, and when we return from break, we'll do just that. We invite some of the great sports minds from Siouxland to break down their view of the list and who they would put as their top 3 when we return. Part of the beauty, or perhaps the downfall, of a top 25 countdown is that no 2 lists will look exactly the same. Everybody's list is going to differ from somebody else's just a little bit. So with that in mind, we decided to invite in these guys, some of the elder statesmen of the sports reporting community here in Siouxland. We have, of course, Terry Hersom, a longtime sports editor at the Sioux City Journal. We have Travis Morgan, a former sports director right here at KMEG. And then we have Curtis Anderson from Your Sports Show on KMNS, who covered sports in the area for many, many years. And so I just wanted to get a chance to hear from some of you guys of what you had to think about this top 25 list that we put together. So Terry is kind of the elder statesman. Let's hear from you and what you thought about the list.
No, I'm not that old. I just lived a hard life. So, everyone on your list is excellent, and there are many more that probably belong on there. But it just gets difficult. Sometimes people were just so good at what they did. It was obvious they would be good at other things if they weren't trying to be the very best. And so I look down here and to see Shelby Houlihan listed number 4 is really difficult for me to swallow. I guess simply because she's, this is a young woman who is named the track and field athlete of the world this year.
I kind of said all along that I'll never claim that this is, the right top 25 list, but just kind of a celebration of all of our athletes, and the ones that really did perform well and get a chance to honor some people that kind of came through the area. So Travis, obviously you covered a lot of them right here at KMEG. So give me some of your initial thoughts when you look at the top 25.
Just bravo on just having the gumption to try to do something like this. It's hard to judge people when you never saw them in person play. Number 1, Brandon Snyder probably could be a top 5 guy. For sure a top 10 athlete, from West Lyon. Player of the year in football, Class 1A basketball player of the year. Took West Lyon to their first ever state basketball tournament, and not only did they take him there, he won it. All-conference shortstop in baseball, finished 6th the state golf tournament, and qualified for 4 events, the state track meet, and medaled in 3 of them. So that was one guy that I was for sure probably should deserve to be in the top 25. Brooke Waltersdorf from Western Christian was was a female athlete that I thought probably should get in there. The 2A Player of the Year in volleyball, the All-State basketball. In her senior year, she won the 1, the 2, the 4, and the 4x1 relay. And I'll wait to dish out my top 3 list until all these guys are give me theirs.
I admitted all along that I've only been here since 2017, so to be accused of recency bias is probably fair, honestly, just because, again, I didn't get a chance to cover all these guys. And Curtis, you've been a guy who's been around here for a good 20 years at least, so you've kind of seen all these athletes come through the area. So give me some of your initial thoughts on what you see in the top 25.
Well, first off, your list is terrible. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I've been told.
Everything about it is completely wrong. No.
Rip it up, throw it away.
Well, I looked through the list, and it's awesome because some of the stuff on your top 25, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that person. Some on the list, obviously, that I would sneak up a little higher. I'm with Shelby Houlihan, obviously. Brandon Wagger's up on the list. He was an amazing track athlete, but he focused on football at the end of his career. And one that I want to add in there is like Jackie Kalin, who was an amazing basketball player, great soccer player as well, and obviously, just a great human being. Let me throw in Pat Grace, too, because, boy, I loved him on the basketball court. I mean, he lowered that shoulder. That Hela team then was awfully good, and obviously we know him as a quarterback as well. So, I don't know. It's a great list. It's fun to debate because no one's right.
That's right, especially me.
I want to throw one in, too, and I think these guys will probably agree with me on this one. Maybe the most underrated Metro athlete we've had here in a long, long time is Josh Collins. Josh Collins at Sioux City West was just unreal. He ran for over 1,000 yards his senior year behind an offensive line that was probably about as good as me and Terry and Curtis right now. It was not very good. And he still ran for over 1,000 yards, and he played basketball. He was very good at track. But unfortunately, he didn't have the talent around him that, at Sioux City West that, Brandon Weger did, or these other kids at these other schools. He was pretty amazing, very impressive. I remember always thinking Josh Collins was so underrated when he was
Well, Coach Farley didn't think so. He thought he was rated pretty good and took him over at UNI.
That's right.
I will say that too, that as a UNI grad, it definitely pained me to leave people like Josh Collins, Jackie Kalin, Pat Grace, Ben Jacobson, to leave them off the list. I definitely would have liked to be a UNI homer and put those guys on. I wanted to, I obviously had my top 5, and that might differ from you guys. I don't know if you did a top 5 or a top 3, but Travis, let me hear kind of the finalists that you had on yours.
Yeah, and, I looked at this top 3, and the way I ranked my top 3 was simple. It was when people ask me about my time doing sports, what are the players that just jumped off at me and then I have the most memories of or the most stories about? Brandon Weger was a guy that literally did what he wanted to on the football field. I've seen him do things to opponents that should be illegal. Deb Remedy, maybe I would put her up against any guy or girl that I've covered in a game of horse without dunking in a game of horse, and I would probably bet my second child, not my first child, my second child. I bet my second child on it. And as far as Carli Tritz goes, what do you say about somebody that could be great at tiddlywinks, darts, whatever she wanted to do, she would beat you. She was so phenomenal at everything she did. So Wegher, Remedy, Tritz number 1, and those are my 3.
Helen fans will love you for that top 3. Curtis, overall, give me your top 3 that you had.
I'm going to go number 3 with Brandon Weger. I'm going to go Shelby Houlihan at number 2. Another person never satisfied, always worked hard. I guess I'm giving her extra grades because she's an awesome human being as well. And then I'm going to go Carli Tritz on top on this one, too. If you're in the Hall of Fame twice, I think she should be in the Hall of Fame 3 times. Why not?
Terry, let's hear if you put together a final 3. Who did you have in there?
Well, I'm just formulating it as we go here, but I'll take the best track and field athlete in the world as my number 1. My number 2, I would call a 3-way tie between Carli Tritz, who is, I watched her parents grow up, and they're tremendous people. Brandon Weger, I watched his dad play, and I thought his dad was the best running back ever in Sioux City until Brandon came along. And then the third one is Alexis Conaway. Went on to Iowa State and played on a nationally ranked team throughout there. And fifth, I'm going to put Brandon Sheriff. Now I'm going to lie awake tonight and think about, I should have said so-and-so and so-and-so. It's a daunting task and, something people can have fun with. And Lord knows we need stuff to have fun with these days.
Yeah, and I want to kind of close just by saying thank you guys for obviously joining us and getting a chance to put in your 2 cents on this list, because I know there are a lot of people that have wanted to share their own opinions as well. And of course, thank you as well for all your work covering sports in Siouxland over the years. All of you have done a great job doing that, and just trying to kind of carry on that work. So as far as the top 25 goes, let the debate rage on. And we'll continue to stoke the fires of debate when we return as we count down the top 5 athletes for each individual sport. That's when our Athlete of the Century special continues. Welcome back to our Athlete of the Century countdown. We made the top 25 list based on the criteria of all sports combined, not just individual sports, but it's worth raising the question, who does reign supreme within individual sports here in Siouxland? Let's break down the top 5 for each individual sport. In football, he didn't make the top 25 cut, but Akron Westfield's Cal Eskra holds the Iowa record for most passing and rushing yards in a single season. Norfolk Catholic's Dylan Kautz is Nebraska's all-time leading rusher. Brandon Sheriff could be a future NFL Hall of Famer if his career goes according to plan. And Hunter Deckers, of course, is Iowa's all-time leading passer. And our number 1 football player from the last 20 years, Bishop Heelan's Brandon Wagger, 3,238 rushing yards in a single season, is still an all-time Iowa record. He's in the top 3 of every significant rushing category, led Heelan to a state title, and eventually made it to the NFL with the Panthers. Surely the best running back in Iowa history. In boys basketball, Casey Harmon twice scored over 700 points in a season before going on to career at Creighton. David Wingett scored the second most points in Nebraska basketball history. Brennan Kugel and Daniel Tillo are the only Metro players to win Iowa's Mr. Basketball in the last 20 years. But number 1 is a young man whom our own Larry Wins calls the Metro's best basketball player since Kirk Ferentz, South Sioux product Mike Gesell. Mike was a 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year in Nebraska, scored over 2,100 career points before becoming a legend at the University of Iowa and playing professionally abroad for a few seasons. And an argument could be made that Siouxland produces better girls basketball players than any other sport. This was probably the most difficult top 5 to put together. Alexis Conaway, a former Miss Basketball, as was Kelsey Bolte, Carli Tritz, a Hall of Famer, Robinette, one of the best in the nation when she was at South Sioux. But number 1 was a consensus nearly across the board. Rock Valley's Deb Remerdy is regarded as the best shooter, male or female, in Iowa history. She graduated almost 20 years ago, but is still at or near the top of nearly every offensive category in state history. She led the Rockets to 3 state titles before winning a natty for Northwestern. Moving into the summer sports, for baseball, Sioux City North lands a pair of former players in the top 5. Day McTomshay helped North win a state title. Jacob Wesselman, a legend at the powerhouse of Rims and St. Mary's, and Tyler Sanders ranked 9th nationally on the list of career no-hitters, over 600 career strikeouts for the Okoboji alum. But number 1 comes from Sioux City East, Dom Thompson Williams, who's still making a go of it in the Mariners minor league system right now. He was a Gatorade Player of the Year for the Black Raiders, still holds the state record for most hits in a single season, 86 back in 2011, and he's 7th on the list of career hits in Iowa history. On the softball diamond, Spirit Lake lands 2 players in the top 5. Naturally, they were part of a state championship team for the Indians in 2004. Susan Keese was twice the Class 1A Player of the Year. Tori Konishi holds 5 pitching records in Class B and the record for most doubles in a single game. She led Wayne to 2 consecutive state championships, their first in Class B. But number 1 had to be a different Wayne High School graduate, Molly Hill, a player who still holds nearly every conceivable all-time pitching record in the state of Nebraska. Hill did not allow a single earned run during her senior season, led the Blue Devils to 2 state titles. She's got some of the best numbers in the country for a high school softball career. Finally, into the running sports, Nick Kuchel, an all-time great sprinter, while Kingsley Pearson was still Kingsley Pearson. Nick Phelps, one of the best boys throwers Iowa's ever seen. Dylan Kautz, 4-time state champ in the 100, our only athlete who winds up on 2 separate top 5 lists. Jorma Schwedler, he won 7 state titles in his sophomore and junior years. Denied a senior season because of COVID, but still one of the state's all-time best sprinters. So as it stands, Gable Siebrecht is our top boys runner from the last 20 years. Siebrecht was a cross-country state champ and holds state track records in the 1600 and 3200, a 5-time track and field state champion and 2-time Drake Relays winner. Gable running now for Iowa State. And some girls track and cross-country athletes got to give some love to. Carrie Siebrecht won 17 state titles in wheelchair events during her high school career, one of the best wheelers in Iowa history. Kristen Hansen and Annie Shadle, a pair of outstanding long-distance runners in Siouxland. And Kiana Phelps, Nick's older sister, she's regarded as easily the best female thrower in Iowa history. But for number 1, who else could it be? Number 4 on the all-time list, you heard Terry Hersom singing her praises. Shelby Houlihan, right now one of the best in the world, won a truckload of state and Drake Relays titles in her career, an all-time Sioux City legend from East High School, and someone who could very possibly win an Olympic medal this summer, assuming those Olympics in Tokyo do happen. Those are some of the individual sports legends from Siouxland, and to end the show, we give you a preview of what the next athlete of the century countdown might look like with some current prep athletes who you'll see on the list another 10 or 20 years from now. Keep it right here. Welcome back to our Athlete of the Century breakdown. Now, from the get-go, our rules were that the list would only include athletes who have completed their prep careers, but what might the list look like 5 or 10 years down the road? Here's some current prep athletes who could make the cut the next time we tackle a venture such as this. One of those fellas coming from down in Sergeant Bluff, just a junior this year, and he's already shown a bright future ahead. Jacob Emming, he just recently committed to play linebacker for the Cyclones once he graduates in 2022, but Jacob is a really great role player on the Warrior basketball team, and he qualified for state in the high jump as a freshman. He's got a year and a half left of highlights to provide for us here at Siouxland News. Even farther down the road in the future, the class of 2023 Unity Christian sophomore Gracie Schoenhoven. She's been making her presence felt in Orange City. As a sophomore, she was 3rd in the conference in kills and 4th in blocks, helped get the Knights back to the volleyball state tournament. And on the basketball court, she's already scored over 700 career points. She'll hit 1,000 early in her junior year probably. Again, she's only a sophomore. We'll see what she can do over her final 2 years of high school. Up at Remsen St. Mary's, we're seeing the final season of another potential athlete of the century, senior Blaine Harpanaugh. This coming summer, Blaine will complete one of the most historic baseball careers in Iowa history. He's going to finish in the top 5 list of career strikeouts. Harpanaugh is also a strong member of the Hawks basketball team, and as a quarterback, he just helped Remsen to an 8-man state title. He's heading to Kirkwood Community College in Cedar Rapids to pitch for his first couple seasons after high school. Now, this kid could have already been a top 5 member of the Athlete of the Century list probably. OABCIG senior Cooper DeJean. Cooper was a 1,000-yard wide receiver as a sophomore. Then he switched to quarterback as a junior and did not lose a single game the rest of his Falcon career. He won 2 state titles and accumulated over 4,600 pass and rush yards combined each of the last 2 seasons. Cooper was an all-conference pitcher for the Falcons baseball team. He's a first-team All-Stater in track for the long jump, open 100, and the 4x1. And he was a highly sought-after basketball recruit before he moved to quarterback. This season, his Falcons are ranked 9th in the state, and he's averaging over 25 points and 7 assists a game. But the future is on the gridiron for Cooper. He's heading to Iowa, where he's getting moved to safety next fall. He could go down as one of Siouxland's best overall athletes of all time. But that is for the next Athlete of the Century countdown, which will bring back in maybe another 5 or 10 years, just long enough for us to recover from putting this little thing together. In the meantime, we'll have more countdowns coming up soon, including the top coaches and the best teams, the top 20 teams from the last 20 years. Thank you for joining us, and as we said all along, let the debate rage on.